So it's like when you find out that the world's not exactly how they taught you it was, and you have to do these lessons, it's like you can continue with the money, but you have to give up this thing that you consider yourself. You have to give up your integrity. You have to give up your credibility and do things that they want you to do for money. And that's what money's for. It's to make people do things that they wouldn't do otherwise out of the goodness of their heart, right? So that was a real, I don't know, it was a real gut check to have to be able to say, what's more important? Having some integrity and being broke, or having a bunch of money and thinking that you're happy because somebody sold you that idea of happiness.
This reminds me of something I believe you've referenced before, and that's the story of the Oliver Stone film Wall Street. And when you jump into the tank with Gordon Gekko.
Yeah, I mean, on numerous occasions, I found, and I had watched that movie a lot growing up, and I kind of, idolize the guys who work on Wall Street and make all this money because they're brokers and they can basically do as they please in the world, right? But then working as a software sales rep inside of these large financial institutions and learning what they're doing with this software, learning that they're investing $200 million on a project to steal billions of dollars of your money, I didn't think that was cool, and nothing I had ever learned in college prepared me for that experience. So, it was a slap in the face. And yeah, I kind of felt like Charlie Sheen in Wall Street, because it's like, wow, making money is cool, but it doesn't make me sleep well at night. It doesn't make me healthy. It doesn't really win me any useful friends. And, it didn't resonate with my heart. So I did what I did. Which and I'm thankful for it.
Well, and I think that's basically bringing us to the point that money can't always be used to make you happy or to make you shut up. So I think what we want to do, as we're talking about 9/11, and we're the day before the 8th anniversary, this is a large subject that, again, I think scares away many people, because when they look into this conspiracy theory world and culture, they see a big, ugly mess of debunkers and agents and agendas and leaders and distractions, and ultimately they say, you guys are all pretty nuts. I always want to make sure that this material is accessible to people and that it doesn't scare people away. And that's what I've always tried to strive to do with the show, is, try and always do a better job and make it accessible to folks that they want to look further into the information. So, money can't buy happiness, nor can it always buy silence. So, let's start by speaking about someone named Beverly Eckert. If you'd like to maybe give a quick thumbnail of who Beverly Eckert is and why we want to talk about her as a way to kind of introduce this conversation.
Sure. Beverly Eckert was the widow of a gentleman who died on 9/11. And if that wasn't bad enough, she decided on her own volition that after being through this experience and losing her husband and, sitting by and watching the shenanigans carried out by the 9/11 Commission, that she would not take the $2 million payoff. And as somebody else who said, no, I'm not going to take the money, I admired her for doing that. Ella Mariani also did the same thing, and they both went up against the same attorneys from Skadden Arps who were protecting the airlines from the victims' families. So Beverly says no to this money, and she wants to go to court. She presses on with this court case with the goal of getting everything on oath and getting everything into evidence through discovery. And, lawyers are really good at taking up your life with little processes and motions to dismiss and, let's go into mediation. So these wives and the spouses of people who perished on 9/11 had to not only go through hell on that day, but then they had this other sort of hell start the next day. And the lawyers didn't even wait that long. They started, right away before the buildings had even fell practically, going into D.C. and getting lobbyists to go to your congresspeople to say, let's limit the liability of our corporations because otherwise it's going to hurt our economy, right? So Beverly at one point had given this speech, at one point she had written this article. I was referring to the wrong piece. At one point, she wrote this article, and it's called "My Silence Cannot Be Bought." And I pulled it back up on the internet today, and I said, you know what? It's a shame that with her losing her life earlier this year in this plane crash, that nobody's going to hear what she has to say, and no one's going to hear the story, and no one's going to be reminded, most likely, on September 11th. And I think it's a day that when people need to hear what she had to say the most. So I asked Lisa this morning, I said, look, is there any way that you would, read this article out loud? Because I don't think it's right if I would read it in, a male voice or whatever. So she did, and we recorded it, and that's what I emailed to you earlier.
So let's take just a few moments and listen to Lisa Arbacheski, publisher of Tragedy and Hope magazine, and again, tragedyandhope.com, reading the late 9/11 widow and activist letter, "My Silence Cannot Be Bought."
On the 8th anniversary of 9/11, we thought it'd be important to represent the voice and the words of someone who's not here, to make their own voice heard. It's an article originally published on Friday, December 19th, 2003, by Beverly Eckert, whose husband died at the World Trade Center, who herself was killed February 12th, 2009, in the crash of Continental Flight 3407 outside of Buffalo, New York. I believe Media Monarchy's episode 112 has a little bit more information on this, but the article we're presenting today by Beverly is titled, "My Silence Cannot Be Bought."
I've chosen to go to court rather than accept a payoff from the 9/11 Victims' Compensation Fund. Instead, I want to know what went so wrong with our intelligence and security systems that a band of religious fanatics was able to turn 4 U.S. passenger jets into an enemy force, attack our cities, and kill 3,000 civilians with terrifying ease. I want to know why 2 110-story skyscrapers collapsed in less than 2 hours, and why escape and rescue options were so limited. I am suing because, unlike other investigative avenues, including congressional hearings and the 9/11 Commission, my lawsuit requires all testimony be given under oath and fully uses powers to compel evidence. The Victims Fund was not created in a spirit of compassion. Rather, it was a tacit acknowledgement by Congress that it tampered with our civil justice system in an unprecedented way. Lawmakers capped the liability of the airlines at the behest of lobbyists who descended on Washington while the September 11th fire still smoldered. And this liability cap protects not just the airlines, but also World Trade Center builders, safety engineers, and other defendants. The caps on liability have consequences for those who want to sue to shed light on the mistakes of 9/11. It means the playing field is tilted steeply in favor of those who need to be held accountable. With the financial consequences other than insurance proceeds removed, there is no incentive for those whose negligence contributed to the death toll to acknowledge their failings or implement reforms.